On the morning of September 2nd, 1945, Japanese officials stood aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay and watched their nation surrender. Surrounding them was one of the greatest concentrations of naval power ever assembled. Over 300 American ships, aircraft carriers stretching to the horizon, and nearly 900 aircraft roaring overhead. What they saw that morning was not just defeat. It was proof of something Japan's own commanders had warned about years earlier: American firepower. That warning began with Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. Yamamoto knew America better than almost any officer in the Imperial Japanese Navy. From 1919 to 1921, he studied at Harvard University. He lived among Americans, traveled widely, and observed the country not as an enemy, but as a society. What he saw shocked him. America was a nation of abundance. Factories in Detroit produced automobiles on assembly lines at rates Japan could not imagine. Texas oil fields pumped more fuel in months than Japan possessed in reserve. Steel mills in Pennsylvania produced more metal than the entire Japanese empire. Yamamoto understood what this meant. Modern war ran on oil, steel, and machines, and America had all three in unlimited supply. Japan did not. Yamamoto later served as naval attaché in Washington and deepened his understanding of American psychology. Americans were competitive, aggressive, and relentless once committed. They did not quit halfway. By 1940, as Japan's military leadership pushed toward war, Yamamoto delivered a stark warning. He told Prime Minister Fumimaro Kono, "If I am ordered to fight, I will run wild for 6 months to a year. But after that, I have no expectation of success." Yamamoto explained why. Anyone who had seen the factories of Detroit and the oil fields of Texas, he said, knew Japan could not win a long war against the United States. He went further. Even if Japan captured Hawaii or the Philippines, that would not be victory. To truly defeat America, Japan would have to march into Washington and sign a treaty in the White House, something clearly impossible. This was not bravado. It was a warning. But Yamamoto was ignored. When war came anyway, he did his duty. He planned the attack on Pearl Harbor to buy time, not to win the war outright. On December 7th, 1941, Japanese aircraft struck with devastating effect, sinking or damaging 8 battleships and killing over 2,400 Americans. But Yamamoto immediately recognized the danger. The American aircraft carriers were not there. Worse, Pearl Harbor united the American public overnight. Yamamoto understood that a sneak attack had awakened exactly the enemy he feared. Japan's 6 months of victory followed. The Philippines fell. Singapore surrendered. The Dutch East Indies were conquered. Japan's empire expanded at breathtaking speed. And then came Midway. 6 months after Pearl Harbor, exactly as Yamamoto predicted, American and Japanese carriers clashed near Midway. Atoll, thanks to broken Japanese codes and extraordinary industrial effort, including repairing the carrier, Yorktown, in just 3 days, the Americans were ready. In 5 minutes, 3 Japanese carriers were turned into burning wrecks. A 4th was destroyed later that day. Japan lost 4 fleet carriers and most of its elite naval aviators. The expansion ended. From that moment on, Japan fought a war it could not win. American industry now surged forward. New aircraft carriers rolled off assembly lines. Destroyers were launched every few days. Liberty ships were built in weeks. By 1944, the U.S. Navy had more carriers than Japan could even challenge. In the air, the shift was just as dramatic. Early in the war, Japan's Zero fighter dominated the skies. But American aircraft like the Hellcat and Corsair were tougher, better armed, and produced in overwhelming numbers. American pilots were trained in vast stateside programs. Japanese pilots, once elite, were killed and replaced by undertrained novices with little fuel and little time. The Battle of the Philippine Sea in 1944 made the disparity unmistakable. Japanese pilots were annihilated in what Americans called the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. Japan lost hundreds of aircraft and the last of its trained carrier aircrews. Its carrier force became little more than a decoy. On the ground, Guadalcanal revealed the same truth. American engineers built airfields in days using machines. Japanese forces, working by hand, starved. Courage could not overcome logistics. Firepower crushed determination.